In this video, we're going to talk about simple alkane naming. And so what do we mean by that? Well, when we say simple, we're talking about unbranched organic compounds. When we say alkane, that means there are only CC single bonds present in the structure. And when we say naming, that's another word for nomenclature. So the naming system that we're using is the IUPAC naming system. And so the names that we assign to the different carbon compounds are according to a certain set of rules for that nomenclature. We're using the IUPAC nomenclature, which is by far the most common set of rules for standard naming of organic compounds. And it's important to note that alkane naming is the base for naming more complex structures. So it's important to have a good grasp on simple alkane naming before you move on to more complex structures, because the naming as well gets more complex. So we'll be looking at 10 simple alkanes with 1 through 10 numbered of carbons. The name for the organic compound with 1 carbon is methane. With 2 carbons, it is ethane. 3 is propane. 4 is butane. 5 is pentane. 6 is hexane. 7 is heptane. 8 is octane. 9 is nonane. And 10 is decane. And if we look at the structures of these, methane is just a simple CH4. Ethane is a CH3 bonded to another CH3. Propane has 3 carbons and looks like this in the simplified line drawing format. Butane, pentane, that's 5 carbons. Hexane, heptane, octane, nonane, and decane. So if we look at 5 plus carbons, we can see that these use the Greek numerical prefixes in their names. The first 4 have unique names that don't correspond to Greek numerical prefixes, but 5 and above have Greek numerical prefixes like pent, hex, hept, oct, non, and dec, plus A and E, which indicates that the structure is an alkane. If it was ENE or YNE, that would mean that the structures were alkenes or alkynes, respectively. And remember that these are the names for the unbranched alkanes only. Branching adds complexity to the structure and to the naming system. So if you see just a plain octane or hexane or decane, you know that if it's named properly, then it just refers to the simple unbranched alkane. There are no isomers for unbranched alkanes. For example, this is the only structure you can have for an unbranched hexane. Once you add branching, then you can have numerous different isomers, and therefore you need a naming system that accounts for all of those. But since there are no isomers for unbranched alkanes, because they are so simple, once you add the possibility of branching, the structures become so much more complex, and so does the naming. And we'll go over that in another video. But just memorize these 10 names, because that's the basis for all the rest of the naming system. So knowing these will help out a ton in the future.